Hi, I'm a Possum and I find garbage. And if you've subscribed to me, then you should check my channel for other videos you might have missed since YouTube doesn't tell my subscribers when I upload, so there's probably months worth of videos you haven't seen. Anyway, I'm stranded on a desert island today, but I have an escape plan. I put a message in a bottle, and I'm gonna put it in the sea and let it float back to the mainland. By my estimation, a rescue should arrive in about 8 years. I guess the laws of Brownian motion had a different plan. Speaking of Brown, today's garbage is Delgo, an animated movie from 2008 about two young lovers from opposing factions. You know, like Romeo and Juliet. That's a formula for instant drama right there. It's also apparently a formula for the lowest grossing computer animated film of all time. Delgo made just over $900,000 worldwide, against a budget of $40 million. Now, you might be wondering, this looks like it's 2 steps up from the f***ing Bionicle movie. How the hell did it cost $40 million? Well, because the cast is almost entirely A-list actors, including Anne Bancroft. This was actually her last movie. It came out 3 years after she died, and 7 years after she recorded her lines for it, because it took that long to finish for some reason. Oh no, it's the Kraken!
That's right. You better get cracking on another video. Ha ha ha.
Suck my dick. The movie starts with some opening credits in the worst font you've ever seen. Some rejected Star Wars creatures fly by, we get a title, some weird animals f*** around to establish that this is a fantasy setting, and we get a prologue of our hero Delgo, as a kid, playing with his dad. Nothing important happens. Then some British narrator lady explains the backstory.
The land of the winged Norn grew barren.
So this is the kingdom of the Norn, a race of flying monkey people who are all starving because of gross mismanagement of their resources. So their leader, King Zahn, sends scouts to find a place for them to live. And they find the land of Jamora, which is already inhabited by Delgo's people, the Lochni, who are like green frog people or something. The Lochni, being a bunch of bleeding heart liberals, agree to let the Norn refugees settle in their land. But after some time, they start to realize that letting in millions of migrants unchecked might be causing some societal problems. So they start telling the Norn to f*** off. But then the Norn just start killing the Lochni under the leadership of King Zahn's sister, Sedessa, whose name is so on the nose that she probably got it from George Lucas. Predictably, this causes a war to break out, and even though the Norn have an obvious advantage because they can fly, instead of just dropping rocks on them or something, they swoop in close to the Lochni and fight them hand to hand. King Zahn gets pissed at Sedessa for starting a war and kicks her out of the royal family. So then Sedessa gets pissed and sneaks into his bedroom at night where she poisons the queen and tries to poison him, but he wakes up and stops her. And then King Zahn gets pissed and has Sedessa's wings cut off, and then sends her into exile where she meets these orc guys. And then we cut to 15 years later, and we see that Sedessa now has a collection of fake wings, but she's still wearing the same outfit.
So sorry to keep you waiting, gentlemen. I just couldn't find a thing to wear.
So it turns out Sedessa somehow became the leader of the orc dudes, and all of these guys are the tribal leaders, and Sedessa says she doesn't need them anymore because she has all the orc dude tribes united under her leadership. So she traps them in a cage and lowers them into a pit of red mist where they presumably get turned into glue or dog food.
It smells delicious.
Then we cut to Delgo, who's all grown up now, riding through the desert with his annoying comedy relief sidekick friend, Philo.
I just don't want to race.
Alright, no problem. I can respect that.
What?
Our hero uses peer pressure to bully his friend into racing him, and they inadvertently cause a stampede of these dinosaur things. Delgo tries to show off his acrobatic skills and falls off a cliff. Then Philo, thinking Delgo is dead, starts crying until he hears Delgo's voice.
Delgo, is that you? Are you up there?
No! Down here!
Oh no! I bet it was that time when...
No! down here.
So it turns out Delgo is still alive, and we never get to find out what he would have went to hell for. Philo uses a slingshot to launch a flare, but ends up lighting a tree on fire. Then Delgo tells him to go get help. Philo runs off, and then a Norrin girl who happens to be flying by offers help to Delgo, but Delgo refuses help from her because he's racist.
Hello there.
Whoa!
Need some help?
From a Norrin? I don't think so.
Delgo falls, but it turns out this 100-pound woman is strong enough to lift him, so she saves him. She drops a thing without noticing it when they land, and then Philo comes running back, but then these two Norrin guys come zipping up with all piss and vinegar and beat the shit out of him and Delgo. It turns out this girl is the Norrin princess Kyla.
Colonel, General, you are out of line.
Your Highness, the Lockney only understand violence.
Your side's the one that started the war, a**hole. Just then, some other Lockney dudes show up, so Kyla and the two Norrin guys f*** off. King Zahn yells at Kyla for doing stupid shit like saving Delgo's life. She storms off, and then the king looks at a portrait of his ugly wife. Imagine these two f***ing. Delgo walks to some kind of temple where people are practicing magic or something. Some dude named Elder Marley, voiced by Michael Clark Duncan for some reason.
Connect with the stone, Delgo. Feel its pulse.
Tries to get Delgo to levitate a magic rock through a hoop, but he's too stupid to understand.
The stones are a path to a higher goal, not an end unto themselves. They will also teach you about yourself, but you must be willing to learn.
Elder Marley takes Delgo to some kind of magic pool and shows him a vision of the time Sedessa burned down a village, then lectures him about the folly of revenge or something, and spews a bunch of vague movie wise man gibberish.
If you wish to control the stone, you must first let go.
Then we see some Lockney people talking about how two kids got attacked by Norrin, and they're presumably talking about Delgo and Philo. Then we see the two Norrin guys from earlier betting on some kind of game. Malcolm McDowell beats the blue guy and wins his Razor Wing, which I guess is some kind of flying animal they ride around on. But then we see the Lockney forming an angry mob. Malcolm McDowell and Blue Guy hear a commotion outside, and see the Lockney eluding the Norrin settlement or whatever. I'm starting to get tired of writing Lockney and Norrin in my script, so I'm just gonna start calling them frog people and monkey people. So Malcolm McDowell and Blue Guy go back to King Zahn and tell him what happened, and a bunch of political dialogue happens.
Come on. We know this riot wasn't sanctioned by the Lockney government.
What, the Stone Sage Council? If the Lockney people have chosen to attack, then we are at war.
Gilmore, what are the diplomatic implications?
As if the kids watching this are supposed to care about the diplomatic relations between frogs and monkeys. Really, did George Lucas write this movie? Anyway, King Zahn orders more troops to patrol the border. We see Kyla f***ing around, then some big lizard thing tries to pounce on her, but Delgo shows up and throws a hammer at it. Kyla explains that she's looking for her mother's brooch, which fell off her the day before when she rescued Delgo. She gives up and starts to fly away when Delgo says he'll find it for her. Then Malcolm McDowell flies his Razor Wing or whatever to some castle thing on a mountain and gets in an argument with these two orc guys. One of them is this annoying comedy relief character who misuses words.
If you leave your animal unattentive, I shall be forced to compound it. Impound, moron.
Then Malcolm McDowell goes inside to talk to Sedessa.
My love, tensions are escalating rapidly.
So I guess this guy is secretly boning the king's sister, and they're conspiring to start a war. But Malcolm McDowell is struggling to bait Blue Guy into fighting one, and he's like a general or something. And that's making it difficult to get the king to declare war. And I guess that's part of the evil plan to overthrow the king and make themselves rulers of the monkey people. Then we cut to Blue Guy trying to talk some into giving him money to feed his gambling addiction, but the guy demands collateral and tells him to give him weapons. And then we find out that guy was secretly working for Malcolm McDowell, who rats him out to the king and gets him arrested. Then Malcolm McDowell is just down in the dungeon waiting for him, like he wants him to know he's the one who did it for some reason.
Set me up!
Malcolm McDowell knocks him out, and then he flies to the Frog Temple and starts knocking shit over. You couldn't just get a minion to do that? The next morning, Delgo goes to the temple and sees Elder Marley f***ing around in the rubble, and finds the monkey people spear thing Malcolm McDowell left behind. Delgo then starts trying to convince Elder Marley they should fight the monkey people, but he refuses on the grounds that no one was actually hurt.
War is easier begun than ended. There's only honor in fighting for what you believe, if what you believe is honorable.
But Delgo's not having any of his Yoda bullshit. See, Delgo is so mad that someone trashed their sacred temple that he knocks over a sacred artifact and denigrates his master's teachings as playing with rocks.
Of all people, you have the power to do something, and you sit around playing with rocks?
But you see, it's just so important to Delgo that they avenge this insult to their culture, so he gets mad and storms off. Back at the cartoonishly evil Cartoon Castle, Malcolm McDowell comes in and talks with Sedessa about their plan to abduct Princess Kyla. And then we see Kyla in her bedroom, talking to some whore. And Malcolm McDowell is just outside her window and follows her when she leaves, because, again, he can't get one of his minions to do it. Then Kyla meets up with Delgo at some magic cave thing, and Delgo blows his flute in an attempt to get her to blow his flute. He makes one of the magic rock things float around and tells her to keep it.
Did you find my brooch?
Of course. Where did I put that thing?
So after doing the trick that Evelyn's uncle did when they were 5, Delgo and Kyla lean in to kiss after knowing each other for a grand total of 10 minutes. But they're interrupted by some lizard thing. Then Kyla bellyaches about her dead mother, then Delgo bellyaches about his dead parents. Then Delgo gets mad at Kyla for suggesting the frog people should just get over the atrocities the monkey people committed against them.
But that wasn't us. It was Sedessa.
Yeah, Sedessa and your army.
Delgo mentions the monkey people also wrecked the temple thing last night. Then Kyla gets fed up with his racist tirade, throws the magic rock at his feet, and leaves. Delgo tries to run after her to apologize, but she's already too far away. Our hero's a bit of a prick, isn't he? And not in the lovable rogue kind of way, or a troublemaking kid kind of way. He's just kind of a prick. He bullies his own friends, he's racist, he's disrespectful to his elders. He only seems to care about his own culture insofar that it justifies violence against the people he's racist towards. And the only reason he's nice to Kyla at least part of the time is presumably because she has big monkey tits. Anyway, then Malcolm McDowell comes swooping down and knocks Delgo over for no reason before knocking out Kyla with some kind of dart. Malcolm McDowell then tells King Zahn Delgo's responsible for the princess's disappearance. We cut to Delgo sleeping in the same clothes he's been wearing all day, and having a dream about his dad pretending to not be able to find him when a bunch of monkey people suddenly break in and kill his dad and burn down his village. But I guess one of them decided to have mercy on him.
You're on your own, kid.
He wakes up and is immediately abducted by the king's men. Next thing we know, Delgo and Philo are in the dungeon, and the king asks him where Kyla is. Delgo says he doesn't know, so I guess they start torturing him, but the movie cuts away before we see it. They should have cut away from the whole movie. Kyla wakes up in a prison cell somewhere, nothing happens. Then Delgo and Philo meet Blue Guy in the cage next to them. Delgo mentions he saw Kyla being chased by someone riding a white razor wing. And Blue Guy realizes it was Malcolm McDowell, cause remember, he won his razor wing in a bet, and he also let him know that he was the one who set him up for no reason other than the plot needed him to know. Sedessa plays her evil harp thing when the orc dudes come in with Kyla. Sedessa tells the orc dudes to f*** off, then Kyla realizes who she is, then Malcolm McDowell comes in. Back in the dungeon, Delgo uses his belt to open the door, but then they realize they're suspended over a bottomless pit, I guess because they didn't notice that earlier. So Delgo makes a deal with Blue Guy to fly them somewhere if they can get him out. So he tries throwing the belt, but some bird thing catches it, so Delgo comes up with another plan.
This must be part 2. The part where we climb on top of the cage and plummet towards it!
Help me swing this thing.
Oh, no. Not with my help. No, no, no.
Shut up. Damn. So they swing the cage over to the other cage and Delgo jumps onto it. Delgo manages to get into Blue Guy's cage just before Guard comes in, and I guess he somehow knew the Guard was coming because he gets inside the cage with Blue Guy and pretends he was just there the whole time, and I guess this dumb doesn't remember which cages they were in, so he just leaves. Malcolm McDowell then convinces King Zahn that the Frog People have Kyla, and he issues an ultimatum to the Frog People's Stoner Council, or whatever they're called. Of course, they don't have Kyla, so they vote on whether or not to go to war in the most whimsical way possible, by spinning floating rocks around. Okay, so the way this works is they have these magic floating rocks which represent yes or no, and the council members all push on them with their powers until one of them falls. I guess the one that stays up is the winner. So what if one of the council members is stronger with the force or whatever than the others? Does his vote count more? Seems like kind of a broken system. Oh, it's the Kraken again.
Roar! I'm the Kraken.
What does this have to do with Delgo?
Nothing. Here's your $10 patrons.
Basotone, Alex Bones, Acolyte, Brixel699, Cameron Delshon, Cortez, Scientist, Diesel Weasel, Two Snuggles, Eduardo Sanchez, Enrique Vidari, Eric Hess, Fractal Soraya, Gopo, Goma Flame, Gothic Trash, G Pizzy, Handwritten Independent, Humble Clown, Ivan Stansbury, Jane Leedy, Jimmy Jan, Joe Burke, John Cleveland, Josh Hi-Fi, Camilla Schwartz, KNO 1000, Lesquin Quebec, Levi Judge, Lee, Little Durante, Lipstick, Margo McBar, Marcus Aurelius, Max Billy, Nathaniel Davis, Noble Team 33, Peanut Warlock, Paco, Punk Tone, Ricky Baruga, Robert Bishop, Rufflecoffer, Salto, Salty Bucket, Scott Devo, Sir Badass, Miranda Nightlord, Thomas Brown, Tiberian Luke, Tony Belmonte, Toxic Masculinity, Tuzunio, Twilight City Studios YouTube channel, Boopar Supermud, Wolfgrith AC, and Zenith.
That's it. That's all your $10 patrons.
Okay, f*** off now.
Roar! I'm f***ing off now.
Delgo, Philo, and Blue Guy wander around the catacombs under the dungeon, and Delgo has a plan to use the local wildlife to escape.
This is the spot. Where there are Banty frogs, there are Yags. And where there are Yags, there are Yag tunnels.
Then Philo, being a cowardly, bumbling Jar Jar Binks-esque character, walks into a spider web. Fortunately, this moment of stupidity leads to the discovery of a Yag tunnel, thus facilitating their escape. Then we get a montage of the frog people and monkey people preparing for war, and then I guess the Yag tunnel leads to a dead end. So Delgo and Blue Guy argue. Philo tries to tell them there's something approaching, but he does that stupid cartoon stammering in fear thing.
You're messing with the wrong guy.
No, you're the right guy. I owed you that.
Then a Yag shows up, but it turns out it's just a fake out. But then it's not a fake out. Delgo and Blue Guy try to fight the Yag, and at some point Delgo uses one of the magic rock things attached to his hammer to make it fly to his hand. I guess just to establish that he can do that. Then Delgo grabs the baby Yag and gets the mama Yag to chase him, and then he incapacitates the poor animal that was just trying to defend its baby. They make their way out of the tunnel and Blue Guy says he's going after Princess Kyla, and Delgo says he's going with him, but Blue Guy points out that him and Philo can't fly, so Delgo decides he's going to learn how to ride one of the nearby razor wings. As the Frog Army marches toward the Monkey Kingdom or whatever, Malcolm McDowell gets a message from some flying bird lizard thing, and then Blue Guy and Delgo get the idea to follow it to Kyla, because they just assume it's going to where she is. I guess Delgo just learned how to fly a razor wing off camera in the space of a couple seconds. Oh, and Blue Guy and Philo are there too.
Hey, would you take it easy up there?
He's a lot easier to handle with just one rider. Care for a demonstration?
Yes, do it! Throw him off! He doesn't throw him off. We see Sedessa finally changed her f***ing outfit in a scene in which she doesn't do anything, and then we see the orc guys all gathered around to watch Sedessa show off that she has Kyla, and I just realized her ears are drawn on. But Delgo and the others are there, and Blue Guy realizes they're about to perform some kind of monkey people banishment ritual, meaning they're gonna cut her wings off, like they did with Sedessa earlier. Delgo tells Philo to create a distraction, then Blue Guy and Delgo argue about who should get to rescue the princess.
You covered the exit.
No way! This is my... Behind you!
I'm not falling for that old trick.
So this orc guy fights Blue Guy instead of sounding the alarm. While Sedessa gives a big speech about how the orc people have been stuck living in a shitty wasteland or whatever, Philo tries to create a distraction by dropping a big vase off a balcony, but no one hears it because they're all cheering. Then he drops a statue and the same thing happens. Then he realizes there's a conveniently placed 8-foot gong right there, so instead of just kicking it or something since it's right there, he tries to shoot it with a slingshot, but he can't even load the damn thing and ends up accidentally shooting a big shield next to Delgo, causing everyone to look in his direction.
Seize him!
Delgo gets attacked by orc dudes who just kind of stand there as he jumps across the gargoyle things and kicks this dude in the face. Like, no one thinks to throw something at him. I mean, we see this one random spear just kind of fly past his head right before he frees the princess, but he doesn't even acknowledge it. It's like some animator realized the orc dudes should be shooting at him, so they animated a single spear at the last minute before they went home that day. I guess I can't blame him. He probably had a loving wife and kids waiting for him who he needed to get home to so he could beat them. Hey, hundreds of people worked on this movie. There was at least one. Delgo fights this guy, another random spear flies past his head, and then everyone just kind of stands around while Kyla flies away with Delgo. I guess now they're throwing spears at him. Cedessa tells the orc guys to prepare for battle because they're leaving for Jabber Jab Jerk or whatever the f the setting in this movie's called, and Delgo and Kyla go back to Blue Guy who's still fighting that same orc dude. Delgo runs outside with Kyla and tells her to go back to the king, and he suddenly starts casting some kind of force field because he could just do that now. You know, the movie established earlier that Delgo is really bad at magic, and he couldn't even get a rock to float through a hoop, but then he's suddenly able to make his hammer thing fly to his hand, and then he can cast a force field. There was never a scene where he learned to overcome his limitations, he just kind of doesn't have his limitations anymore. This is like basic character progression. Even Dragon Ball Evolution didn't screw that up. Anyway, Kyla gets on the Razor Wing and flies away, and Delgo tries to escape the orc guys by climbing over the statue, but then he falls and violently crashes through a window, somehow without the orc guys noticing. But then they do notice him, and I guess they just kind of fall over or something. Kyla flies away. This one orc guy chases her in this flying machine through the sky that's just filled with floating rocks for some reason. Then Delgo sees a space whale or some shit flying around outside the window, and then he sees a randomly placed helmet and gets an idea. Blue Guy saves Kyla from the flying machine guy, then Delgo uses a magic rock to levitate the helmet to distract the orc guys who don't seem to understand what's happening because I guess they're not familiar with the magic rocks used by the frog people who they were presumably trained to fight since they're about to go to war with them. I mean, Cedessa massacred the frog people. You'd think she would know and she would, like, share that information with her soldiers. I guess that would make too much sense. Anyway, Delgo jumps out the window onto the space whale and flies away. Blue Guy fights the flying machine guy. This is going on for a really long time, and then this guy's flying machine just kind of malfunctions and falls. I guess because Blue Guy threw his sword into the guy's headrest. Delgo tries to sneak up on this orc guy and hits him with a hammer, but the orc guy picks him up and throws him, but then Delgo kicks him, and then Delgo scares this other guy to jumping to his death. Then we cut to the frog people fighting the monkey people, and the stoner sages use their magic rocks as weapons. While that's happening, Cedessa makes her way to King Zon's castle, and then Kyla arrives at the castle and talks to that diplomat dude who was just in that one scene earlier, and notices the sacks of cash that are just sitting out in the open on his desk, and realizes he's conspiring with Malcolm McDowell and Cedessa. More bloodless PG violence happens, Delgo flies the space whale, and then the orc dudes show up on the battlefield. This one monkey guy questions why the orc guys seem to be helping them fight the frog people, but Malcolm McDowell just tells him not to think about it. Some of the orc dudes sneak into the monkey people's camp and capture King Zon. Then Malcolm McDowell gloats to the king and explains his evil plan, but then Blue Guy shows up and sword fights him, leaving Philo to rescue the king. Delgo jumps off the space whale and lands on a razor wing being flown by Kyla, crushing his balls in the process. Then Malcolm McDowell beats the shit out of Blue Guy for a while, and neither of these guys think to aim for the other guy's wings. But then the Blue Guy tricks him by throwing a thing in the air and stabs him. Delgo and Kyla go to the monkey people's camp and run into Philo, who explains the orc dudes took the king somewhere, and then an orc dude aims a crossbow at Delgo, but then Blue Guy swoops down and blocks it with his body. Why are these guys even wearing armor if it doesn't protect them from anything?
You're on your own, kid.
That's it? That's the line you're going out on? You don't have some pseudo-profound line for the protagonist to remember during the climax to give themselves the confidence or insight to win or something?
You're on your own, kid.
Oh, so I guess it's thematically significant because some dude he doesn't even know said the same thing to him once. I don't know. The orc guys bring King Zon to the castle where Cedessa gloats at him before declaring herself the new ruler of the monkey people. We get more battle shenanigans, then Delgo smashes a table with a thing, and Kyla yells at him not to give up hope. He kicks a thing, and then gets an idea. Back at the castle, some orc guy sees Malcolm McDowell's razor wing approaching and, not knowing he's dead, they think it's him, but then Delgo comes crashing in through the window with apparently no plan other than to just smack people with a hammer. Kyla tells whoever this guy is to send a squadron to the castle. Delgo fights this one guy, I guess because Sedessa doesn't have any other minions nearby to call in, and Delgo somehow accidentally discovers that he can blind the orc guy with the magic rock thing on his hammer, but it doesn't help. So Delgo gets his ass kicked, and then we see Philo using the carrot and stick method to get the razor wing to fly around and start a stampede. You know, like how he and Delgo started a stampede at the beginning of the movie. The monkey people, presumably acting on Kyla's orders, fly down and snatch the frog people from the battlefield, leaving the orc guys to get trampled to death. Back at the castle, Sedessa's pet bird lizard thing pisses on the king and farts.
Not on the carpet.
And then, because the big orc guy decided not to cave Delgo's head in for no particular reason, Delgo does that thing Elder Marley did at the beginning where he puts the magic rock back together and uses it to chase the orc guy around before he can execute the king. And the orc guy smacks a big pillar thing with his club and makes a bunch of shit fall over. Delgo runs over to the king, but hears Sedessa calling for help while she dangles from a ledge. Because remember, her wings are fake. Delgo then remembers some shit Elder Marley said about revenge being bad or whatever, and gives her a chain to hold on to. Then Kyla shows up. They try to pick up the king, but then Sedessa runs up and kicks Delgo in the back, even though she could have just stabbed him with a knife, which Kyla immediately starts trying to wrestle from her hands. Sedessa seemingly stabs Kyla, but she's saved by her mother's brooch. Yeah, remember that thing? Kyla kicks Sedessa, and then the floor just kind of randomly collapses under Sedessa's feet, and she falls to her death. Well, that's convenient, because now we don't have to show one of our heroes killing someone. Ha! Oh, wait. All of the monkey people and frog people cheer as King Zahn and Elder Marley shake hands. I guess because everyone just knows what happens, and that it was all just a big misunderstanding caused by Sedessa and Malcolm McDowell. But then it turns out Malcolm McDowell is still alive somehow. He tries to throw a spear at Delgo, but gets tackled by some guy. And then it cuts to Philo in his slingshot as if he did something. I was kind of confused at first because I thought the spear just missed and hit a wall behind Delgo, but after rewatching it, it turns out Philo actually shot the spear out of the air with his slingshot, which I guess has enough firepower to just stop a larger projectile dead in its tracks, because inertia doesn't exist, I guess. Whatever. Delgo and Kyla kiss while the magic rocks spin around them, and the movie ends. F*** you. So that's Delgo.
Got any crack?
No. Thanks for watching my video. Like this video and leave a comment for the algorithm. Subscribe if you're not already. Subscribe if you are. Subscribe to check my channel for other videos you may have missed since YouTube doesn't tell you when I upload. And support me on Patreon and some of your fan art. The links are below. Bye.